Well, guys, coming up in this episode, man, DL Hughley calls out Stephen A. Smith and says that Stephen A. clearly doesn't stand for accountability. Criticism comes after National Association of Black Journalists gives Stephen A. Smith the 2026 Thumbs Down Award, citing what is described as a reoccurring pattern of disparaging, black women in the black community in his commentary. Smith has, subsequently, made a statement and has pushed back against the criticism. But man, the criticism is starting to outweigh a lot of things. And a lot of people are putting Stephen A. Smith in a category of Brandon Tatum. Now that is crazy. And if you go back and look, Brandon Tatum did a video about him and Stephen A. Smith about 2 days ago, talking about how black folks dislike them. We've seen what Brandon Tatum has done through the course of this Nolan Wells' tragedy. And it goes back before the Nolan Wells tragedy. It really started picking up steam when Charlie Kirk got murdered. And all the things that he said about Charlie Kirk, how he cried over Charlie Kirk, saying that, he would never cry over his own son, but he cried over Charlie Kirk. And he's been on a couple panels with Stephen A. Smith, and people are starting to link them two together. And the reason why I say people are starting to link them two together is because everything fits the narrative now. Now, we've seen how Stephen A. Smith has relentlessly went on the attacks of black athletes. We've seen, the constant back and forth with him and LeBron James. Now, the things that he said about the new Philadelphia 76ers, Jaylen Brown. He played with the Boston Celtics. Wanted to go back and forth with him. We've seen the attacks that he has had on Jasmine Crockett, Kamala Harris. Everything is like attacking black women and black athletes. And DL Hughley, man, I think DL Hughley had enough. And we already know how DL Hughley came on and exposed Brandon Tatum. So we've seen that Stephen A. Smith got crucified and fixated by y'all's president, Donald Trump. And Stephen A. Smith had no rebuttal to that. He came on and said, well, it's okay that he can call me the dumbest person. He didn't go back at Donald Trump. And see, when you put yourself in these political avenues and stuff like that, you're up for criticism. So that's why he got the Thumbs Down Award. And, he was livid by that. And now DL Hughley goes on record and he just exposes Stephen A. Smith. And it's unfortunate that Stephen A. Smith is catching these strays because of Brandon Tatum. Now, if everybody wasn't down Brandon Tatum's neck the way they are over this Nolan Wells tragedy, the things that Stephen A. Smith has said would probably go under the radar. But now that people are on social media calling people out and trying to hold them accountable, the exposure is out there. So DL Hughley, once again, found time to go on record and to expose Stephen A. Smith. But before we get off into that, man, y'all do me a favor, man. Please like, comment, subscribe on the video. And we're going to sit here and listen to what DL Hughley had to say, man. Just pay attention to some of the things he said because it makes sense, man. I mean, Stephen A. Smith in the sports world, but trying to cross over to the political world and give his statements and stuff, he's getting linked to Brandon Tatum. They say Brandon Tatum is rubbing off on him. So let's take a listen to what DL Hughley had to say.
The National Association of Black Journalists had their convention, a yearly convention. This time, I believe it was in Atlanta. They had the usual order of business, but this time there was something slightly more unique. They chose to call out people who've been detrimental to not only the endeavor of broadcasting, but to Black people in the endeavor of broadcasting. They called out the FCC, and of course, we've seen all that he has done as a as a strong arm for the president, threatening to pull programming or not allow mergers and the like. We see Barry Weiss for CBS, who not only has turned CBS into basically a little more than state-run a media outlet, but has also gotten rid of a lot of qualified Black people. Circle City Broadcasting, someone else accused of the same things that Barry Weiss and Brendan Carr had been. But they saved some of their ire for Stephen A. Smith because of his continued assault on Black women and Black athletes too. I think I take umbrage with the fact that they didn't mention a lot of Black athletes who are also probably on the receiving end of some of Stephen A. Smith's diatribe. But the thing that was the most telling to me, they gave him a thumbs down. And is there any doubt we've seen him go after Jasmine Crockett? We've seen him go after Joy Reid. We've seen him go after, Carrie Champion. We've seen him go after, we've seen him go after Kamala Harris. We've seen him say any number of things. So I don't think that he could be shot. But what was particularly telling to me is how angry he got. How angry he got at the snub. Now, he got so angry at the snub that he promised what was the tantamount to social media retribution that we would hear from. Now, to date, I don't know what statement he's made, but what is telling is that he got so angry at the NABJ, and these are his contemporaries. These are his, the people he works with. They are his contemporaries. As a matter of fact, he's been to the NABJ, and they've been, fairly friendly. This turn has been taken, I think, over the last few years, and it's not hard to tell why it happened. But what was telling to me, as I alluded to earlier, was the fact that he got so angry he promised a response. He got so angry at the NABJ, his contemporaries, he promised a response. What he didn't do is when Donald Trump said that he was dumb as a box of rocks, nothing. Maybe that is what they're talking about. Maybe you got a thumbs down because you are so willing to attack your own and say nothing to the powers that be. You're so willing to attack Black athletes, but say nothing to a man who slaps his wife in front of you. You're so willing to malign your contemporaries, but say nothing to a man who insulted your intellect. Maybe the fact that you're so willing to go after your contemporaries and the people who look like you, as opposed to the power apparatus, maybe that's exactly why you got a thumbs down. Maybe because you went after and promised to respond to somebody who'd attack your professional acumen as opposed to your natural intellect. Maybe that is why. And what's more worthy and what's more demonstrative of what they were talking about? You attack us for a critique. You attack him for an assault. You don't attack him for an assault. Maybe that's why you got a thumbs down. That's a little note from the GED section. Got Judge Report coming up in 15 minutes.
Wow. Man, like, to get yourself put in the category as Brandon Tatum, man, on how you feel about your own people, it's sad. And D.L. Hugley made a point, because when Trump called him dumb as a box of rocks, Stephen A. Smith bowed down to that. He accepted that, had no response to that. But as soon as somebody of his kind responds to a critique, he goes all out in on these people. Who does that sound like, guys? Who does that sound like? And like I said, all you got to do is go and look at Brandon Tatum's video he did 2 days ago. He associated himself with Stephen A. Smith, talking about why Blacks dislike them. This is because of stuff like this. Like I said, the receipts is out there. I mean, this is what Stephen A. Smith has been doing for a long time. And a lot of people have said that. But it takes certain people to call him out and put him on notice. But see, all the call outs are coming now because of the way people are coming out calling out Brandon Tatum. So now everybody feels comfortable of speaking their piece and coming out exposing these people for the detriment that they're doing to their own community. But we know how Stephen A. Smith is. He's loud, the loudest voice in the room, and he's going to respond because he said he's not backing down. He stands on what he said. But he, like D.L. Hugley said, he was so demonstrous and so pissed off when he got the thumbs down award, and he had to fire back. But man, Stephen A. Smith is out here catching strays because of Brandon Tatum, man. He's out here catching strays because of Brandon Tatum. Y'all get down in the comments section, man. Let me know what y'all think about today's video, man. Is who's worse, Stephen A. Smith or Brandon Tatum? We know Brandon Tatum, you know, he goes off on Black history and talk about slavery and other things like that, and calls people super ghetto, and you know, calls defends the other side instead of his side. He goes all in. But Stephen A. Smith attacks his own people. So who's worse, Stephen A. Smith or Brandon Tatum? Y'all get down in the comment section.
I see everyone in the comment section, hashtag salute. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you will know every time I drop a hot banger. Oh yeah, just in case I forgot, tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. And that will wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. Catch you on the next one. Deuces.